You're listening to Almost Beach Glass Interviews. I'm Gil. I'm really interested in the creative process. Today, my guest is
Tad Kroening. I live in Bellingham, Washington, and I am a singer-songwriter. I stumbled in the dark, couldn't tell my head from my toes, and I was tricked into believing that a man is worth nothing if he's alone. But I grew tired of starting fires, trying to burn anything I couldn't steal. I was an arsonist for hire, a thief and a liar. I know I'll never pay back what I owe.
What advice do you have for aspiring artists?
Oh yeah, you asked me that one. And the very short answer is be honest. I mean, and I'm not being flippant with such a short answer. Like being honest with yourself is honestly like one of the hardest challenges. Not just just as a person, but as an artist, like being authentic and being genuine and even knowing what that means.
I agree with you in the sense that unpacking that part of even as a person, because there's moments with myself where I feel like I'm honest with other people in a very tangible sense, but am I honest with myself and how I'm actually feeling in that moment? And I think musically, it seems kind of complex for me, and I honestly don't quite understand of how those things like connect. I get the gist, but I don't quite get the mechanics of it.
Well, I think a big part of that for me at least, that's like be honest is sort of like a mantra for me when it comes to creative stuff. But it's like a big part of it is, especially starting out, like. Naturally, as a musician, we're learning from other musicians. We're learning by listening to other people. So, like, I do a cover. Like, every time I do a cover, the first, like I'm doing a caricature of Townes Van Zandt or whoever I'm singing and stuff, and like getting out of that other person's voice. And then I find myself when I'm writing too, because I'm somebody like Townes or Leonard Cohen or Guy Clark are like huge influences on me. And when I sit down to write, like. I fall into those patterns because I learned from those guys and stuff, and so it's like I'm like, did I accidentally just write am I trying? Is this coming out of me, or is it filtering through that like Guy Clark filter? You know what I mean?
I like how you said a caricature of someone, because if you were emulating someone, then you're trying to seek an ideal of what someone else has already done. But if you're doing a caricature of it, it's like you're leaning into someone else's path in an exaggerated way and kind of seeing where you land with them in mind, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. Like things resonate and stuff, and like and naturally, our influence people. You can hear people's influences, and like influence is one thing, but it's another thing when like. I listened back to some early recordings of stuff that I did when I was a teenager recently. It was like I was still like trying to sing way too low. I was going like many young songwriters. We all go through a Tom Waits phase at some point. So at some point, like I'm trying to sing down here all the time.
That's
I'm trying,
funny.
And like. And there's nothing wrong with that. There are plenty of people who make wonderful careers basically doing Tom Waits impressions, but it's fine, and there's nothing wrong with that. But like that, from the, I think people's best work comes when we're being our most authentic selves.
So kind of going back around to the authenticity, but also with finding your voice. I guess just to provide a personal anecdote, I guess I tried just singing in my bedroom by myself, like late in high school, and then early in college, I would do open mic with friends, but I didn't really feel confident singing, so I kind of leaned into like punk music type stuff and kind of just like shouted things, and then I did sing, and then I feel like that insecurity has kind of shaped of my path of looking to sound good or to try to fit something, and I think that might get in the way of being honest. What words of wisdom do you have to that point of kind of finding your voice through honesty?
I mean, I think honestly, shouting is a great place to start. It's a wonderful place to start because I think like literally just being able to actually find your physical voice and like shouting and being really loud and just giving yourself permission to make noise in the first place before you even get to the point of like, does it sound good or what do I want it to sound like, is just you have to start from the place where like giving yourself permission just to make noise in the first place and in a way that people can actually hear what you're saying, because they got to be able to hear you before they're even going to know what you've got to say, whether or not you have anything to say yet.
That does make sense. So like you have to crawl before you walk.
Yeah, to a certain extent. I think so.
So I guess you're saying like be emotive before you even try to sing.
I don't know that there's necessarily like one has to follow the other, but I think it's a good place to start. Okay. I think when I was first starting to play in front of people, like singing into microphones is weird. It's a weird thing to do.
Yeah.
It takes some getting used to. You got to figure out the distance and stuff, and like how loud do you need to be.
Technicality that there's some just gets in the way of,
and that stuff is really that takes you out of yourself, and you're distracted by like, how am I holding my hands? Am I closing my eyes? And if I'm closing my eyes, do I even know where the microphone is?
True.
And like that kind of stuff, and like being able to get comfortable with yourself in a way that you can that you don't have to think about that stuff as much anymore, and you can focus more on the.
So you get comfortable first. With the technicality sense of the microphone and wearing and for this situation right now, like our funny headphones that we have on our heads that
right.
Get over that part and then start focusing on being honest and being emotive with what you're creating.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hesitant to say to focus on one thing before another necessarily, but it's definitely, I think that's just part of the process. However, you're going to be doing many things at the same time.
Okay.
Like you're still, I mean, and it's all a constant process too. Like however you're feeling that day. Like I still get nervous when I'm singing in front of people all the time and stuff. And like, and I, and that's another part of like that, just the self-awareness and that, and it's a mindfulness thing, it's a like how are you holding your body? How are you holding your breath? And like, and just, it's a matter of, it's really practice, it's practice like anything else. Like even, it's very much akin to a spiritual practice where you're focusing on your breath, you're focusing on what your body's doing, you're thinking about what your thoughts are doing, you're trying not to think about your thoughts too much. And then trying to get to that point of, I think the goal for me at least, and this might sound really pretentious, but it's is like ideally I would want to be in like a state of grace, which is like impossible. Dude, it's almost impossible, I think, to achieve.
All I have to say,
but that's the thing of but that's the thing I'm always wanting to reach toward.
All I have to say to that is congratulations, because when you play, I feel like my cynical brain is looking for something performative, going, all right, Tad's putting it on. You're not. You're not. You are there. Like I feel that you are 100% right there in the moment, and it's extremely evident. So
Thank you.
yeah, when you were talking about a performance or like getting comfortable singing or whatever, and in comparison to a spiritual practice, I think I understand what you're saying, but I'm not sure. Were you kind of saying that it's like a combination of being aware of like your physicality and also your intention of what you're doing and the repetition of it? Is that kind of the sentiment that you were?
I think it's each of those things. Yeah, and like I'm a pretty loosely spiritual person. I don't have like a developed practice necessarily. I've read quite a bit of various things and stuff, so I that's why I said it's kind of like a spiritual process, or maybe it's the closest thing that I can kind of wrap my head around. But I think that there's, if I were to make a Venn diagram of a spiritual practice and a creative practice, like there's a lot of meat in the middle there where there's overlap.
Okay.
Where they're like, you're doing a lot of the same things, a lot of the same. I think everyone should have some kind of spiritual practice, just because it ends up informing everything you do, and creativity, especially if you're writing and stuff. Like you need to be aware of yourself. You need to be aware of your surroundings if you want to be able to pull the details of life into your work, which is I think realistically what we're trying to do is some kind of representation of, of the life that we're, it's about, sharing stories, really. First and foremost, it's sharing stories. And, pretty much all of my stuff is very personal, very confessional type of stuff.
But there's also that element to your music that almost is like personal anecdotes, but through almost a level of like objectivity or acceptance through it, and kind of looking at the bigger picture, which I could see kind of relating back to the spiritual element that you were talking about.
Yeah, like Leonard Cohen is like he's like my guru. I don't know if I should use that word, but we'll keep it in there. Whatever, it's fine.
Guru Cohen.
Yeah,
hell yeah.
I mean, I don't know that he would like me calling him that, but there was in an interview that I read years ago, he was talking about the more specific thing is the most universal. And I don't know exactly why I'm bringing this up, but it's a good line. It's a one that I've always come back to. And so like it's the idea of like, if you say, if you say that there was a tree over there, then that, people, whoever's hearing that is going to be like, okay, there's a tree. But if you say there was a sycamore over there,
I know. Yes.
All of a sudden, there's a whole story being told just because you changed that one word.
That clicked for me. So I've been working on creative writing more, and something that someone really dear to me said was, don't describe your story, like feel your story and process it, and then edit later.
Right.
And just with what you said right then about being really specific, like I could say, there's an anxious dude, or I could say, the fingers, tapping on the desk, it's like, I can infer that they're anxious, and you can prompt, regardless of the medium of songwriting or storytelling. I guess that is kind of storytelling. It is storytelling, but you're prompting someone else to process it themselves.
You're inviting people into the story.
Yes.
I think that's the biggest thing. It's like, to borrow another phrase from a guy that I admire, Elvis Costello is another one of my great, one of my favorite songwriters. And he said in an interview he made an album called North, which is this beautiful, very sparse piano album. He's not a piano player, but his album is all him playing piano. And when he was talking about it, he said, like, in many ways, they're the most personal songs he's ever written. But none of that means anything unless other people can see themselves in them. And, like, I think that is I think that's a nice. I take that as a piece of wisdom going into the way that I think about my song choices and the choices that in my own work, and as well as the song choices I make. 'Cause I play a lot of covers too.
So to take those 2 points and to kind of, I guess, like synthesize a commonality out of both those, is that when you're specific, there's an increased level of relatability that can be kind of inferred from it or internalized from it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I mean,
I like
and you
it.
take, I mean, like a song on the, the title track of my EP, Baby Birch, like,
I love that song.
thank you.
Specifically the piano version at the end.
I love,
That
Tim
one- that
Tim did a
one-
great job on that. He brought a whole new life to that song. That was so much fun to sing and record with him.
I wrap my wiry arms around you till they were warm and brittle and badly bent. I tried to fool myself that I don't love you, but I can't drink it down anymore. Baby birch, oh baby birch, soft sigh me home.
Those lines are like very self-referential. Like a lot of those lines are really specific, like to me and to something that I was doing, to the point where like people ask me all the time, what is that song about? And like, I always hesitate to answer them because it means a bunch of things to me. And it came like each of those things and lines and like those are images from experiences that I had. And they tell a story. They tell my story. It's me telling, but there isn't like a clear narrative to the story.
Like an emotional
necessarily.
scrapbook almost.
Yeah,
Like
I mean,
could-
it is kind of it is written as it's more sort of like a collage, really.
Because when you talk about, I actually listened to that song recently. There's a line in it about describing a hug, and I could see that hug being a romantic hug or a familial hug, and it could be like even in different headspaces that I'm in, I can project different things onto it. Because kind of going back that it's so specific that it's relatable to a lot more.
That's what I hope for. Yeah,
Dude, yeah.
Is that that it's that because ideally, like I you mentioned trying to yeah, it's about inviting people in, but I mean, by and that comes back to that being honest. Is like people respond to it when people know when you're lying to them most of the time, or people know if they're like if they're being pulled in a certain direction or something. People can tell usually if they're being manipulated in some way. Which,
I like how you said manipulated from lying, because I think that encapsulates it even more, because someone could say, like I'm centered, I'm aligned with myself, and it's like that sweeping statement is so binary that you just cut a lot of truth out of it. That's not necessarily a false notion, but it's such a filtered pretense that you took a lot of the truth out of it.
Right. I mean, the filter's always there, but it's
Of course, yeah.
to degrees and stuff. But we're always kind of trying to.
We're filtering out the muck, not filtering out the essence. Maybe.
Hopefully, I don't know.
That's good. Okay, switching topics a little bit. Since we're talking about Baby Birch and the piano version, that made me think about when you perform and there's not a guitar in your hands, your arms do some wild things. They writhe, they coil, they might go over your head, they might kind of, look a little mystical, and you're like there might be an orb you're pondering. Yeah, I was curious. where does that physicality come from?
I literally just can't help it. I have Tourette's syndrome. So I have tics and things like.
I've never known that. Interesting.
It's most people don't seem to notice it, but it's people just my face twitches, my hands. I'm talking with my hands all the time and stuff, and it's all related to it's a thing that just sort of my body does. And I don't really have control. It's one of the reasons why I'm much more comfortable with a guitar in my hands, because then my hands have something else to do. But even when I'm doing that, like I twist and writhe and my face makes weird shapes and stuff.
When you're playing guitar, let's say you have like a hand spasm, would that equate to a mistake in the guitar, or does the muscle memory of playing a song like kind of push Tourette's elsewhere? I don't know anything about Tourette's, to be honest with you.
Well, I mean, honestly, it informs the way that I play to a certain extent, because like the sort of the picking style and stuff that I've developed over the years is mostly because I can't hold my hands still, and it's just naturally what my hands and fingers want to do. So I ended up learning how to play that way just because it was literally just what my hands wanted to do.
That's cool. Yeah, wow, that's interesting because it fits in a 4/4 time signature, and it has, I haven't paid much attention to specifically your strumming patterns, but with this in mind, now I'm gonna like think about it, and I wonder, do you think your picking patterns or your strumming patterns, because you're more of a finger picking guy, right?
Yeah,
or a mix.
It's mostly finger picking.
Okay.
It's pretty much all finger. I mean, or even when I'm strumming with my fingers. I never use guitar picks. I could never hold on to them. I drop them. I lose them all the time, and so that was another reason. I ended up learning finger style was just because I got tired of buying picks all the time.
Yeah, man. Even when I use a pick, I kind of like strum with my fingernail a little bit, and it kind of like wears down on
the cuticle, right? The top of the cuticle right there. Oh yeah,
that gross. I don't like it.
Especially if I'm out in the garage and I'm really like working some stuff out and jamming, like I scrape and bleed that knuckle all the time.
I hate it.
It's a bummer.
Nasty hangnail, and I tried putting like clear coat nail polish on it. Works for like 5 minutes. And then I've known guitar players who do that. They'll either paint the nails, or actually my guitar teacher when I was like, I took lessons for a couple of years when I was like 16. And he was a fingerstyle player too, and he would actually get like super thick acrylic nails put on, like false nails put on, and he would like file them down into picks. He was kind of a masculine dude too. So like there was when he was really banjo player.
Yeah, he was like really bashful about it because he was late to a lesson. He was also a real stickler about being on time.
Interesting.
And it was, but then he was like 5 or 10 minutes late one day, and he was just like, "I'm sorry, man. I was getting my nails done." And it was so like, funny. That's cool, but he was like super embarrassed for both reasons and stuff. It was really cute and funny. But yeah, I mean, like super thick. They're crazy, and like so he just has his right hand is just a fucking claw all the time.
Yeah.
I don't know if that guy's still around actually.
It's so funny. Even just that, the antidote about that dude, like it makes him so much more personable, being that he was vulnerable and a little bit bashful about something that is a tiny thing, and that it's a specific antidote. It makes him a much more honest character.
Yeah.
I think that's cool.
He was a great guy. Greg Norgard was that guy's name. He was a good teacher. He taught me everything I know about finger picking, and I took that and like he got me started and got me rolling.
Is this a 3-finger thing or a 2-finger?
I mean, I think I mostly do 3-finger. I do 4 fingers sometimes. It kind of depends on what I'm playing, but but the first 3 are kind of the dominant. I think a lot of what I do is sort of pretty closely or loosely related to like Travis picking style, but I don't know a lot of the technicalities and stuff.
Travis picking. I know hammer claw, which is the boom ticka boom.
Yeah.
What's Travis style?
Travis picking is like that's what Townes Van Zandt plays. I guess like he's kind of my frame of reference. I think. I mean, any fingerstyle players listening to this are probably like tearing their hair out.
No.
Because I don't care about. I mean, my interest isn't in like a lot of the. I'm not a technical player at all. Like I don't know anything about theory. I can't. It's a challenging thing. It ends up being a challenging thing when I try to play with other people because it's really hard for me to actually explain what I'm doing to people. Like I can tell you what the chords are and stuff, and I can be like, with my hands, I'm doing this, but I don't know how to describe it really.
So I know that the album, the EP,
available on Bandcamp
and on Spotify. I think it was on Spotify.
I've never I don't know, unless Tim put it up there. I never put it up there.
Oh, if maybe after this we can try to get it up there. That'd be awesome. But yeah, so I know that those are close friends who were in the recording process with you, but I was wondering if we could get a glimpse into how you guys produced that album.
I mean, it was really, just Tim Meckling, by the way. I don't think I said his full name.
Amazing producer.
Wonderful producer.
Really creative.
Washington's Records. Check him out. And his and he and I have known each other and we played some of our first shows in Bellingham together 15 years ago when we were in college still. And so he knows my music inside and out and stuff. And so we spent some time and I played him the songs, and a lot of those songs too, like Baby Birch is 12 years old. That song is, and so I've been playing it for over 10 years. So he's heard it a million times. And so and he just understands my sensibilities and stuff. And so most of the process really was going and having a couple of drinks and shooting the shit and sort of setting up a game plan. But most of it was just getting comfortable, sitting down, and just playing them live.
Cool.
Just getting the guitar and vocals down, and then he works his wizardry and fills in him and Hannah do their magic.
So it was more of you getting comfortable with playing what you've done in the recording setting, and then the recording and the editing process kind of molded to what you already laid down.
I guess, yeah. Honestly, I wasn't really much of a part. I mean, I would sit down and play the song, and then I would just leave the room, and then Tim would come back and be like, "Here's what it sounds like." I guess, and then we would kind of talk about levels and move this up and move that down, the little fine tuning stuff. But
I guess the reason why I'm asking is that I feel like sometimes when I meet a new creative friend, and I know this is an old creative friend, so totally different there, we can both agree on, we're going to play in 4/4 and, I'll play a little acoustic rhythm and they'll play some lead and then we'll switch and then I'll do a little lead. But sometimes it's just the strumming patterns or maybe even some of the, the density of lead that they play that it just doesn't sync up. And, I was kind of wondering, do you have any thoughts on others syncing up with you or you syncing up with others and kind of how that works? I know that's such a loosely asked question.
I mean, it's a very mysterious thing. And it's a challenging thing. There are certain friends that we can hang. I mean, and I'm not much of a jammer either. I can sometimes, but it's an uncomfortable. It's not where my skill set is. It's not where I'm most comfortable.
I'm stuck in jam land. I mean,
I love doing it and stuff, and
but I never get shit done because I'm always just
Well, and that's when I'm by myself. I mean, it's that's been kind of the challenge for me these last few years, especially. So I've been a lot more guitar focused, and I just got an electric guitar in the last year, so I've been starting to kind of tinker around with that, which is cool. It makes different noises. And so most of the time I've just very recently started to get down and start actually writing again, because I've just most of the time I'll be in the garage and I'll be playing a riff. And I'll just keep playing it, and then I don't end up actually, even if I'm supposed to be practicing for a show or something, I'll just be sit there noodling because it's fun, man.
It is fun,
and sometimes I forget that this shit is supposed to be fun too.
Oh, dude, yeah.
It's not just like I need to rip my fucking heart out and throw it on the thing, and it's also it's a fun game. It is supposed to be a joyful and it is a very joyful thing.
Well, when you said that made me kind of just like have the realization that when I write a song, it happens in either two ways. It's that there's like something emotional that's inside of me that needs to be like exercised out of me, and then the song gets kind of, I don't know, crude. It gets pooped out just in like one go.
It is the very definition of catharsis.
Or the other way that a song happens is that I'll play a chord voicing that maybe I haven't played before, or play two chords that I haven't heard, quite in a certain way, and I go, ooh, like da da da, and I kind of like, oh, maybe there's a melody there, and then I almost build it, spontaneously, analytically. Yeah. So, do you ever write songs from like a more analytical side? I know that you're talking about the emotive way is your bread and butter, but I'm curious, do they ever happen a little bit more on the technical side?
I guess what do you mean by analytical? Like you're starting from a structured place? Is that what you mean?
Or maybe like, ooh, I wanna resolve at this part, and and then we'll have a low section here, and then it'll.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that part usually, ends up being. That's usually the second part of the process, but it kind of the steps don't always happen in the same order. More often than not, like I'll be doing something else entirely, and I'll just have a line, like a lyric, and a melody will pop into my head, and it'll just, if it sits there long enough, eventually another one will come, and then if that stays around long enough, then I'll sit down and I'll like, okay, now I've got the first two lines of, maybe it's a verse, maybe, I don't know, whatever. I've got the first two lines of something, and then I'll sit down with the guitar and like try to make the guitar match the vocal melody that I have in my head. And then that part is then, so now I've got the first, chord or two or whatever, the first couple of bars, and then I have to go and like, okay, so then going from C to F, which is usually what I'm doing. If I'm going from C to F, okay, then I'm probably, like, I'm either going to go to G or I'm going to go to A minor.
Okay.
So then where's the...
Screw this.
Okay, sorry. Okay. Going too far?
So I guess what I'm hearing is that that element of, like, that initial creative spark that you get, that emotional side, is followed by an analytical process. And I think the two things that I've separated to say I write a song like this or like that I should combine them, and it's probably much more powerful in the songwriting process to put the two together.
It could be.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, it's different people write in different ways, and I don't think there's certainly not a correct way to do it. Okay. I mean, and there's I can't think of one specifically, but I have written songs where I've had I've had a fully written like piece of music, like verse, chorus, bridge, like the whole melody and everything. I've written songs like that, and then I have to go back and write the lyrics and like try to figure out what the story in that melody is, and like how they all fit together and stuff. Most of the time for me though, it's a kind of back and forth process of sort of like, is if this feeling, this is the emotion I'm having, it doesn't quite fit with the, because I write in usually pretty folk structures, like it's a verse chorus done, like kind of more often than not, I think. Maybe, I don't know.
One thing
sometimes they're all verses. I don't know.
Okay. I like songs that are like that. Those are cool. But one thing I've kind of noticed that is a parallel throughout your creative process is the idea of not focusing on things too linearly and letting it be a back and forth process. Yeah, does that, like, because I'm so all over the place creatively that I almost am a little strict with myself, and I'm like, let's try to make this linear. Like, I'm curious, what attributes does that element of having something be very flowing and not, an incremental process? How does that serve what you make?
I mean, I think that just comes back again to the honesty question of just of the it's part of that is just getting out of your own way, and just letting because like my favorite songs that I've written are the ones that were just like effortless songs that just sort of like that might need some tweaking and fine tuning here and there, but like Baby Birch came out in like half an hour. Like that song was like, I mean, it was in my head before, but I mean, there was more to it. Like by the time I got down to like sitting down with a pen and I think actually I used a typewriter in those days. When I sit down to actually write, I missed the typewriter. I used to have a really nice one. I haven't had a good one in a long time now.
Was that one electric one you plug in, or one of the?
No, it was an old manual typewriter. I like
nice.
I like the clackety clack of the keys. It's another thing of like not being able to hold my hand still. I can really have something to hammer on.
I know, fuck a fidget spinner. You can get a typewriter,
Yeah,
man.
that's the good stuff. But like those songs, sometimes I think Randy Newman called those gifts. The songs, those songs are gifts
When they just come
out, and they just sort of happen like that. And that's coming from a guy who's like, he's a composer, and he's a songwriter as well. But like, he's a composer who is also a songwriter. So like, he's a very like he's sitting down and writing music notes on sheet music and stuff.
When you say get out of your own way, like I hear like a very tangible explanation of that, of like just do the thing, just go for it. But then in a more deep sentiment of kind of let your mind relax and let this recurring theme of this conversation of honesty, of let what wants to come out authentically, and not to try to formulate something to come out.
Yeah. Oh, and when you're analyzing yourself, you're actively trying to change yourself at the same time. Like you're manipulating yourself when you're analyzing yourself. When you're in that,
that's a trip.
When you're in a critical mind state, and so you don't want to be. I don't want to be, criticizing shit as I'm writing it. You have to, you have to let lines be, so that. You have to understand that that everything that you write down on a piece of paper doesn't necessarily like you can edit that shit later. You can edit that, do that shit later, get it all down. Which is kind of what you were describing too, like when you're talking about creative writing, or your friend was saying, I think. You just need you have to divorce the editor in you from the writer, so that you can get that rough draft down. Because if you're editing the whole time, like you're never even gonna get the draft done.
Dude, that's such a trip when you're talking about that. When you analyze something, you're inherently changing it. Like, I've never thought of it like that, but for a really simple thing, it's maybe not changing it from it's not alchemy from making it from one thing into a totally different thing, but grain isn't moonshine. You're looking at it tighter and tighter and tighter until it's something else. And I like that. I think that's been a blind spot that I haven't even recognized till right now, that over analyzing something could get in the way of creating what is, I guess.
I think it can. I mean, that's another constant challenge too. It's just like we do that in our daily lives all the time. I mean, it's it's not easy to do, to get into that state of again, I'll use the word grace. I think that is the thing that's been on my mind a lot lately. If that again, and these things are like it's all connected. It's all related. It's all practice. And it's again. I also recently watched that Leonard Cohen doc, Hallelujah.
I haven't seen it. Do you recommend it?
Oh, it's great. It's all about him writing that song. It took him almost 10 years to write that song.
Well, there's like 10 verses in it.
There's 28 plus notebooks. There's over 150 verses that he wrote to that song that was why it took him so long to whittle it down.
Okay,
So that's coming from a totally different perspective, and like he's a workhorse.
So
songwriter.
Okay, let's juxtapose Randy Newman of saying songs are gifts that just come out of you.
Some of them are.
Some of them are.
Well,
Let's take a look at.
And I mean, I think
Cohen
Cohen would say the same thing, but he's also he's a clock in, clock out songwriter, or he was for a good chunk of his time.
Oh, that seems so mysterious to me.
And a deeply spiritual person. And I think his spiritual practice and his creative practice I think are very, very related.
There we go. I think you connected what I was missing with Leonard Cohen in the sense of that it took him so long, not because he's musically constipated. It's a consistent practice that's routine and maybe ritualistic kind of.
Well, and he's working with really high concept shit. Like, he didn't want, he's writing a psalm, like he's writing a spiritual song. So like he's put a lot of responsibility on himself to like, you can't be, you can't just like half-ass God.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, with the heavies in life, you can't just go, good enough.
Yeah,
that's it.
And especially, that song too is so. There's so much in that song. It's about spirituality. It's about love, and it's about sex, and it's about, it's about so many other things too.
Kind of what it means to be human, and then kind of that level that is on the brink of our understanding, but like never quite there, but yet we're ever in the pursuit of, I guess.
Yeah, and it is always there. I think is part of it too. Is like it's always there. It's joy, it's despair, it's everything in between.
Oh yeah.
I think. I don't know. I don't have a relationship with God myself. But I think there's still something like that in that.
A lot of acceptance that I feel from your perspective to life and hence music, and I think that's a valuable lesson. I am curious, what is next musically for you?
That's kind of where I'm coming from right now. Is this question of grace and my writing is changing to a little bit. I don't have anything that's quite. I'm hoping. Well, I don't. It takes as long as it takes, but it's like I said. But like the stuff that I've written before, like all the stuff that I was writing, the songs that ended up on the EP, and the stuff that I've been writing and stuff is all very confessional. It's all coming out of me reacting to something that happened or a state that I was in and stuff. And now I'm trying to push forward. I'm like, those are stewing songs. Like, I'm sitting in and I'm soaking in that. And then I'm kind of like, this is the soup kind of a thing.
You're not analyzing it, but feeling it.
Yeah, and describing it and stuff and being in it. But this is like, I'm at a point in my life where I'm trying to move forward in my own life, in my own, psychological and spiritual life. I'm trying to process that through the writing, and I'm trying to get stuff that's about where I'm going and not where I've been. I'm trying to get there. I'm hoping, it's been challenging too, and it's a lot. It's a much and writing wise, it's a more difficult practice.
I think it sounds like a very attractive journey in the sense of like the unknown so alluring.
Yeah, And not necessarily where I would like to be going, or where, you know, it's setting intention maybe, or something like that. It's a little vague in my own head at this point.
Well, I like that you're in the writing process and like so evidently encapsulated in the creative process and yes, soaked in it, and I fucking love it, Ted. So I wanted to touch upon a couple takeaways that that I'm gonna keep with me that I think are really dope. So I guess I'll just go in reverse order, and they're all kind of interrelated. So one was like getting out of your own way and kind of just writing of what like needs to come out and what is already coming out, and don't over try synthesizing it.
Yeah, I think that comes later.
That comes later. Okay. And then
If at all.
If
You
at
don't
all.
always have to do that.
Okay.
You know, it can be.
I guess maybe I misspoke. Maybe instead of saying synthesize, I meant putting on your analytical hat and getting editorial with a song.
Sure.
And then the one that I think it was really cool is the actually they're all really cool. But the being specific, and your example of, you know, there's a tree, but then you say there's a cedar tree, and I think that being specific, it's kind of counterintuitive, that being more specific makes it more relatable to more people.
Yeah.
I think that's really cool.
That was the Cohen line. The more specific thing is the most universal.
I like that. That's really good.
Because it invites you in.
Invites you in.
And that's the thing. That it took me a long time to try to. That took me a long time to get to as a writer and a performer. Is letting people in, and not just throwing shit at them. I've got these emotions, and I'm just gonna put them over. I'm just gonna like shout them in your face, and if you like it, that's cool. If you don't, that's fine. I don't really care one way or
I
another.
like the visual of that though. No, because
Like, I'm just slinging shit.
yeah. Because you think
But
about
now it's like, here's my shit. What do you think?
yeah. It's like instead of forcing your emotions onto the audience and projecting onto them, it's
inviting
welcome them
reflection.
in. Yeah,
It's inviting people in to reflect.
I like how you said
Ideally, that's what I hope I'm doing.
that. Yes, I like it a lot. Yeah. And then I guess the prerequisite to all that, be honest. Like if you aren't starting there, then those other things are, you know, yeah, honesty is a prerequisite to those things. Yeah, so.
Yeah, I think it informs. I think that informs everything in the creative process. I mean, it's starting there as a starting point, for sure. At least that's yeah.
Dude, I just want to say thank you for coming on and hanging out and talking, and yeah, and spending some time and like teaching me some things. So yeah, really cool. And I just want to say thanks again.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. It's been fun.
Dude, hell yeah.